Hey everybody, it's Kevin. Today is the 21st of January 2021, and here we go again with the 121 of 21. Lots of ones and lots of twos. Yeah, I noticed the dates that are like magical like that, and when they all line up, it's like messages. And of course, a two added to a one is a three. Don't quite know what that means in numerology. I think it's linked to creativity. Um, because from a number three, you can get more, you can get a six, you can get a nine. It's all very interactive. That's just a bit of trivia. Um, I'm well. I had a day of reflection yesterday. Um, Sometimes things like that, when they sort of fall apart, um, not in a bad way, just when what you have planned um, sort of goes cattywampus and doesn't quite work, or I got delayed. It felt in the morning, the energy after I meditated and sort of got going, moved around, I felt a heaviness. I don't know why. Um, and so, I got reflective, meditated for a bit longer. And then I got a burst of energy right around mid afternoon, and you know, things picked back up. Um, but I just shared that because I think I'm moving into a place where I am learning to be present to the. I think I talked on Monday about the we can only control what's about as wide as a hula hoop, and I'm finding myself um, being present to what's in front of me right now, and what can I control right now, what can I do about things right now. And that came up because um, there have been some delays with moving, and delays are going to happen in all areas of everybody's life. There's going to be a delay. There's also going to be energy that picks up and moves things quickly we didn't expect. Those experiences where you're looking for something to happen, you've been looking for something to happen, and it happens sooner than you were thinking it should happen, and you're not sure whether you should go for it, because, in your mind, on this magical human timeline, we're thinking, when this happens, I'll do that. After this, I'll get that done. When I've done this, there's always a sort of a way that we want events of our lives to slot into place. In the spirit world, when you're on your path of destiny, your path of purpose, living in the here and the now, when all that lines up, it just happens. So I equate that to being a bit like a trapeze artist has to let go of one swing when it hasn't quite caught the other. And there's a brief second or two, maybe not quite that long, of spinning plates in the air and being doing this. Well, this is what it felt like for me yesterday, was the suspended animation. I am not used to sitting still and being non-productive, but the pandemonium we find ourselves in has slowed things down and caused me to be a little more reflective about what I'm going to do next and how that's all going to happen. What I've noticed in my own, like being my own therapist and looking back and saying, "Oh, this, where's that coming from?" Is the past programming, the way I was, the way I have been, pops up insecurities, um, the thought that creates the story that creates the situation. I don't know if you are a fan of Abraham and Esther Hicks, but I've certainly dug into some of their law of attraction um, philosophies. I believe, for me, because it feels right and it is on alignment with what I'm about, it's those messages get presented. Um, Abraham, through Esther, in one of her YouTube videos, talked about the 17 seconds that a thought begins to expand into a more active thought. And then between 17 seconds and a minute, it then begins to create the energy that begins to attract it. So everything up to 17 seconds is a bit like when we do in meditation. We sit and any thought that's coming, let it go, let it go. Doesn't have enough time or attraction to attach magnetic energy to it. Oddly enough, 17 seconds is quite a long time. But when you're not counting the seconds and you are gluing yourself to the thought, for example, you can wake up first thing in the morning. That's period of bliss where you've been in dreamland, and dream makes no sense. We don't tend to attach ourselves to the dreams. We just tend to just go from thing to thing in the dream. Doesn't make any sense. So that's why we don't attach to it. We wake up in the morning, any and all issues of yesterday, the day before, what have you, whether it's negative or positive, it goes right back in there, comes back up. So what Abraham was saying through Esther was to find the bliss first thing, to move your mindset into something good and positive to build your day upon. Because the morning, the first thing, that first few minutes, your body's completely rested, your cortisol levels are, I think they're at their highest or their lowest. Cortisol is the kind of stress factor thing. I'll have to look that up about whether it's higher or lower in the morning. But first thing in the morning, you get to build what your day looks like based upon where your mind and emotions are. And I know that to be true because if I all of a sudden focus on what my task is for the day, work-wise, I'm drawn to, at least I was yesterday, the income and the monetary and the financial security, insecurity, that kind of thing. And I noticed, I got the message from the YouTube video that I've been spending too much time on the fear of the lack of flow, of the non-flow, of the what am I going to do, the worry that's attached to you're supposed to have this much security because you have this much responsibility. And there goes the whole point of the 17 seconds leads to something else. So to change it, and this is so weird that this should come up, I'm shuffling this morning and in my mind I'm saying, what's the message from the angel? And as I go, I'm saying things like, I am the keeper of my mind, my body, and my spirit. Wherever love is, fear is a stranger, and love is right here. And you shuffle. Give me the angel message for today. And a whole bunch of cards flew out, but one flopped upside. And here it is. The card of inner child healing. So appropriate that what I think and believe and feel is a past program. It's a fear. It's a fear that I have not reconciled. But then it's also a fear that everyone is reconciling right now. We live in an unpredictable world. Well, what if we were supposed to be living in an unpredictable world? What if the unpredictability became the flexibility that we needed to remove the structure, the dogmatic stuff that becomes a limit? You know, limits aren't flexible at all. Possibility, opportunity, that's super flexible. but a limiting way of doing something, regimented, traditional, that isn't flexible. It's rigid and it's limiting. So the horse king was the message behind the inner child. Now, this is where it gets to be a bit tricky. When we're healing issues from the past, especially whether it is something we've learned from other people that we can't shake, the idea that if we do something that's not in the flow of those who raised us, those who influence us, our circle of influence, that somehow we'll be doing something against the grain, that somehow we hear that message in our head, that's ridiculous. What in the world makes you think you can do that? Oh, you're being silly. That sort of nonsense that goes on, we at some point we hear it enough, we believe it. So that negative programming, and it is programming, it's programmed in by people who really do care about us, but want the best for us. But in wanting the best, it can sometimes be detrimental. Not to make them wrong and not to blame them, although that's possible. More to say, pay attention. This is them and you be you. Judgment comes out of the fact that we try to push what we do on other people. No, that's them and you're you. That's the fastest, quickest way to sap hold of judgment, is to look at, maybe that's the way I do it. It's not the way they do it. And I don't know the way they do it. That might work. See. When we are healing issues from the past and bringing up that inner child that needs to be healed for us to grow, the tendency is to retreat. It's to go inward. It's to shut down and be very private about it. Because sometimes these places, mental, emotional connections, are painful. They aren't pretty. Especially when we're learning that wasn't quite right. That wasn't quite where it's supposed to be. It brings up cleansing. Tears cleanse. Emotions cleanse. Emotion can be sadness, anger. They have a way of clearing out. The Horse King is a reminder that if you look at the picture, you've got a king, but he has to have a horse. Can't really walk to that castle on the hill. Can't really accomplish what the king wants to accomplish without the help of a horse. The point in all of these two together says, when you're healing internally, part of the way for healing is to ask for help. And the help comes in the form of the angels, your guardian angels, parents, people who have got your back, that trust you, that know you. For me, because I have been independent my whole life, and I've done things on my own for the most of it, I have a built-in automatic survival guide, almost like part of the DNA, that there's a force field that keeps me from going over the edge or overextending to the point it was dangerous. I've done it several times and I've always been pulled back. There's always been a parachute. So knowing that gave me the confidence to say I can't go wrong. I can't do anything wrong. Nothing can really go wrong. It can just be indifferent. What I need to learn is I don't ask for help enough. I don't trust enough. So how did I get to don't trust? Well, because I put too much emphasis in being let down and disappointed, being rejected. And then when I haven't been rejected, the opposite is where people want to steal the light. They want to sabotage what you're doing. The envy, all of that career envy has been going on. So there's an awful lot of me that has to learn to heal trust issues. Without healing the trust issues, asking other people to help me, asking them to give me assistance, whether that's in building the business, attracting clients, pushing my YouTube up there. Yes, I can say that's what I'd like to have happen, but people don't get it unless you say, I'm in a bit of trouble and I am a little concerned. And whether or not you listen, sit down, have a chat and let's talk, it may help, but truly I could use some help. I could use some help with focus. I could use some help with whatever that is. I don't do that. I do it spiritually. I go talk to my spirit guides, but clearly these two cards are an indication that I'll share that it's time for all of us to ask for the help and to connect with other people, to do things for each other. And the other part of me not wanting to ask for help is the idea that I'm going to owe somebody something, that somehow I'm going to have to repay that. A bit like debt, a bit like love debt, if you will. There are those of us that are so much more comfortable giving that, here, have it, I'll help you, no worries, than we are receiving. It's tough. Usually independently, fiercely independent people, the ones who seemingly have it all together, are more comfortable giving than they are receiving. Because to receive is linked to the ideal feeling of weakness. Somehow, they had to do this, they had to do that, I needed help. Bit weird that way, but just my truth. And I feel complete with that. It feels good to get that out there. It feels good it feels good to share that. And I'll be honest, I think truth and honesty is the way to heal, for sure. It came up as a trigger that if I sit and look at next week's schedule, it's thin on the ground. It's thin on the ground. And as you know, when the end of the month comes along, we've got bills to pay. So rather than thinking, oh, well, this is why folks have got bills to pay, they haven't got any extra income here, that's why, it's okay, it's all good, that would make me feel a lot more secure. I went internal and said, oh my goodness, I had the limiting beliefs that I'm telling everyone to not have, to open up the possibility. So being clear on it, being real with it, seeing where it came from, got me clear and truthful to, I can expand from it. That makes sense. All right, let's read from Our Journey to the Heart. There we go. Whoops. Boop, 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 boop. I'll take this away. There we go. I left that up the other day. Yesterday was Honor the Process of Spirit. I don't know if I read yesterday's. Let's see what the 20th said. I don't think I read this. Yesterday's date was the 20th, and I know I didn't read from this. So we're going to read yesterday first, and then we'll read today. January 20th, learn when it's time to adapt. Life is constantly changing, and so are we. With change comes the need to learn to adapt. Some adaptation comes naturally. And on my trip, I watched even the subtle changes in my body as I traveled from climate to climate. In the warm, dry climate of Arizona, I needed more water. My body needed lotion. My hair needed different shampoo and conditioner. In the higher mountain climates, I found myself breathing differently. Needed to give myself more time to rest. People who live in different places and different cultures adapt to the climate and the ways of the world around them. When can we learn to adapt to the situations in our life? 2, to the constant evolution of the world around us At home, at work, within our social groups, change is constantly taking place. Most of us are constantly on the move, meeting new people, being exposed to new situations, or needing to deal with situations that have themselves changed. There are times when we can adapt to the changes around us, when no matter how hard we try, we cannot force ourselves into the new circumstance. Our body won't allow it because this change isn't right for us. We need to learn to adapt to change, but we also need to learn to tell when the situation is wrong for us and not force ourselves to fit. Be sensitive to the changes, both subtle and dramatic, around you and in you. Give yourself time and freedom to adapt to those changes and figure out what they mean to you. So that was for yesterday. Adapt to the changes. Today is discover your own truth. Imagine that. No truth is ours until we make it our own. All the truths in the world don't matter unless and until we discover them to be true for ourselves. That's what the journey is about. An insight, a lesson, a new belief at the end of each adventure, whether the adventure happens to be in a moment, an hour, a day, or a year. This lesson doesn't come from books, although books might help along the way. It doesn't come from classes or lecture or well-meaning friends. The lessons we're seeking comes from inside us, from our hearts, from the deep abiding connection to consciousness and the truth. It springs quietly from within us as we notice one day that we believe something new, something different, something more free, more fun, and more life-enhancing than what we believed before. For a moment, we may turn back and say, we didn't know that. Why didn't I see that before? Then we step back on our path, laugh, and go on our way, understanding that that is why we were there. Not to know everything in advance, but to allow ourselves to go freely through all the lessons that teach us all we came here to learn. You're on a journey of discovery. Find out what's true for you. Remember, a truth isn't yours until it rings true for you. Oh. A truth isn't yours until it rings true for you. Until you get the aha moments of self-discovery. That happens more and more and more for me, I think, as I shed the burdens of living outside here. Yes, doing more of lightening the load. You know what's very interesting, what I'm noticing from conversations I'm having with friends and people, is they're offloading. I don't know if they're conscious of it or not, but many people I know are going through cupboards, closets, everywhere. The kitchen, the bedroom, the bonus room, the attic. It's as if there's this unwritten, invisible force that's taking over the minds of people and programming them to get rid of the things they don't need and only live with what they need, what they have, and to be okay with just that, which I find rather odd. Odd in the way that, it wasn't so long ago that it was consumerism that we were all part of, having certain things and certain types of labels. I've noticed that before, when my inbox filled up with offers and discounts of 50% off and the buy one, the get one, the this and the that, I was right there to go order it all. And now I just delete it without even reading it. Like, I don't really need any more of those. I don't really need this. This is a distraction. And I've also noticed when I've gone in the stores that where there used to be 75% off, 50% off, this, that, and the other thing, it's now buy one, get the second one half off. So you have to get two of them. So it's weird. It seems like this underlying energy saying buy more, get more, have more. When the world is saying we don't have enough, there isn't enough, it's we're having to, things are limiting. It's quite strange. All right. Let's meditate. Bring your feet flat to the floor. And for this morning, my shoulders are tight, so my neck is tight. Just do a body scan, mainly of your major joints, hips, and you know, when I talk about integrating your physical self, you can internally study your body from the inside out, from the bones to the skin and beyond, and then from the floor up, from the soles of the feet to the top of your head. That's an integration of your mind, your consciousness, your thoughts to your body. And as you scan your body, starting with the bones of your feet, through your legs, move the breath to the places that are tight. Let your thoughts settle down. Allow your breath to be a flow into your body, healing the areas that are holding on to tension. Let the tension be released through your exhale breath and the releasing of the oxygen leaving the tissues that are tight. Use this opportunity to realize and discover that in the stillness comes inner wisdom, the inner wisdom is the vortex of space. Where thoughts, energy, vibrations, and images appear unattached from a time from the past and unattached from idea of the future. higher consciousness and inner wisdom arrives without the help of ego. Inner wisdom and higher wisdom are the same. By deepening your breath, allowing things to be as they are and as they're not, quietening down the need to control, releasing the anxieties and fears through breath, through exhale, through sending it to the earth. The releasing and letting go of limiting beliefs, limiting thoughts, programming from the past. You have access to pure thought. As thoughts and distractions present themselves during your meditation, focus your mind on your hands, your feet, or the entering and the exit of your breath through your nasal passages. The human programming of the mind is to stay active. The conscious and the subconscious mind are working the same wavelengths, the same vibrations. The conscious mind creates images, accesses memory, researches past programming, the subconscious mind functions autonomously. The subconscious mind sends messages to the conscious mind when the body needs something. There is but another area of the mind that has the ability to go deeper, further, to a different dimension, to access intellect and energy beyond the conscious and the subconscious. The practice of meditation allows the conscious mind to settle. The pathway to inner wisdom is through the mind of inner peace. Use this time and practice of meditation to reach your inner peace. Bring your attention back to your breath. And your environment. Bring your hands to prayer at heart center. Honor yourself for your dedication to doing this work, for graciously meditating, being present to what's happening. And let's lift our thumb knuckles to our third eye centers. Together we bow and say Namaste. That for me was a bit different. I think I've shared before that oftentimes when I drop into meditation, at least it's happened lately, I feel the energy of spirit world wanting to speak through, wanting to come through, wanting to talk. There's a way to go into full trance. I've done that. That takes a bit more practice, and it requires, for me at least, it requires a human facilitator, person who is familiar with trance channeling. And this automated channeling is just using the messages that the energy sends me and going with it, let myself step out the way, which was a bit like what it felt when when the spirit was explaining what happens, that the conscious mind is on the top active, the subconscious mind is doing its work, digesting food, sending and I should say, Megan just went wow on the comment. I should say and preface this with, every single human being on the planet has the tools to do it. Now, I want to be clear. I am no different to anyone else. We do it. The challenge is we're not sure when we do it and how we do it, or when it happens or how it happens. That's not the point. It isn't the point to make yourself special. That's connected to the ego piece. The point is understanding that the tools and the skills you have are there. It's a way to use the vast layers of consciousness. I've talked about the different levels of oh gosh, I've got this here, and if this interests you, Megan, and if it lights you up, anyone, about, well, what does that look like, just look at it literally for what it is. A channel is a vessel by which energy flows through, and you're that. Brain waves are guide emotions, thought guide emotions, neurological responses. That's all connected to the consciousness, the subconsciousness, all of that. Obviously, for those who want to treat patients, whether it's medically or psychologically, there's a certain amount of neurological training they have to go through, because you just can't just go experiment on everybody. But you can experiment with when you are channeling and when you're not channeling. And the real important part of learning to channel or practicing it, because you already know how to do it, it's just covered up with the thought that you can't. So if someone says to you, do you see this shape on the wall, that shape on the wall that they're seeing, that these other people see, but you can't, there's something in your conscious mind that's blocking it, getting in the way. And it just means practice. I know when I first started practicing yoga, and that's a prime example, I couldn't understand why people could lift their hips up and float their feet up to their hands. For me, it was a big old mess. And the halfway lift, why do my shoulders need to be back? Why do I have to have that tabletop? Because it's where energy flows. And the forward fold, how is this person able to collapse and fold completely in half? That was my initial practice, because my body wasn't ready physically. Bones, skin, muscles, tissues. Those are the physical conditioning that we do to prepare for where we go next. So the level of consciousness requires all the other layers of consciousness to get out the way so that that can come through, which is, I think, what the spirit was saying. You've got subconscious digesting food, doing things that we don't know that's happening. Then the subconscious goes to the conscious when we're thirsty, cold, hot, just tells the brain to do something. Like, it's hot, you take a layer off. It's cold, you put a layer on. These are the things that your subconscious automatically tells your brain tells you. There we go. Upward spiral, downward spiral, the scale, energy, vibration. All linked to chakra, that's one word for it. Many people, to illustrate the chakra levels, they give it color. Color is really just a reflection that the eyes see. But here's the energy vibrations. And then you've got 700 plus, that's the number, enlightenment. The lower number, 20, is shame. So if you're feeling guilty, apathy, grief, fear, you're all 100 and below. Desire, anger, vanity, and boldness is 100 to 200. Neutrality is 250 when you're not feeling anything at all. When you're just bleh, just not really here, not really there. Most of us stay in that space of neutrality. Readiness, adoption, the mind, love, joy, harmony, enlightenment, they rise up. But what's interesting about this, the number from neutrality to readiness is basically 60. But from readiness to adoption is only 40 points, 310 to 350. And then you go from adoption to the mind, it's 50 points. But from mind to the feeling of love, it pushes up 100. But then from love to joy, because they're connected, it's only 40. From joy to harmony is 60. Harmony to enlightenment is 100. So it's and they use this HZ hertz as the measuring thing. Now, I'm not sure where this came from, but I was doing a the Hawkins scale. The alpha point is the lowest, and the ultimate consciousness is the highest. I've forgotten. I was doing a workshop on when things happen, the two choices. When things happen, we get to neutral because there's a numbness. If it's something that's catastrophic, shocking, stops us to our core, there's a numbness. And there's neutrality that sits there for a while. And sometimes it can last minutes, depending on the severity of the event. And sometimes it lasts for a whole day. Sometimes a week. We're blah. Typically, I notice that more in folks who have just learned that someone they love, care about has passed, gone. There's neutrality. Same thing that happens with the death of a job or a career. You lost your job. We're letting you go. This company's shutting down. There's neutrality. You thought you had $1,000 in the bank. It's been stolen. There's neutrality. It sits there in a numbness that there's the part where your conscious mind is still operating as if it was, but the reality is it isn't anymore. So you're listening to the news of something, but you're still vibrating with the idea that you didn't hear it. After neutrality comes the action of spiral down or spiral up. And the only way to seemingly get there is to stay still and begin to reprogram the past response, which would have been, oh my God, what am I going to do? That crazy land, into a conscious response. What can I do? And if what can you do, the first answer is nothing. No thing. Doesn't mean say you're lazy. Don't attach it to that. It's just no thing. But quickly, that's the space where you're in neutral. Your conscious mind, your subconscious mind are just suspended. That extra piece of what can I do, those messages, that's when they pop in. because everything else is frozen, is paralyzed, it's being held. And brain waves is just energy. It is energy moving through your body. Emotions are energy moving through your body, and they're all temporary. A breath is temporary. An emotion is temporary. A reaction is temporary. A response is temporary, because everything is in motion all the time. So if one day you're feeling not confident, unsure, fearful, oh my goodness, get to neutrality, get to peace, get to stillness. And once you get there, you've moved away from reaction and response into, no, let's just sit quietly, get peaceful, go to that Zen space. And very quickly, you just changed where you were to here. Now you know here is where you learn what's there. But you can't get to what's there until you get to this place. I'm sounding like a mad scientist. I don't mean to. So I'm being told, shut up. That's all you need to say for today. All right. Listen, have a great Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye.